Good morning. Thank you for standing by and welcome to the CA Service Management Upgrade Services presentation. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. After the speaker's remarks, there will be a question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question during this time, simply press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. If you would like to withdraw your question, press the pound key. I would now like to hand the floor to Titus Moore. Thank you. Mr. Moore, please go ahead.
Thank you, LaTanya. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Thank you for joining the call today. Very excited to be here to speak to you about a new offering, new services offering that we have that we hope you'll find very valuable today. Want this to be interactive. We're going to take you through a couple of slides here, and then towards the end we'll have a Q&A, but definitely want to get your questions, want to get your feedback on what you think about what we're going to present to you today. I'm a part of our corporate strategy group, and I'm responsible for working with our service management customers, making sure that you all are getting maximum value out of your investments in our products. I traveled around the world, met with many of you, gotten your feedback, and taking that back to our product management, product engineering teams to make sure that we're meeting your long-term service management requirements. I've got on the phone with me today Avneesh Bhatnagar from our product management team. He's actually going to do the bulk of the talking and take you through the offering that we've developed for you. But with that, I'm going to jump right into it and just take you through the agenda here. So I wanted to give you some context on what we've seen in the past and where we are today, and hopefully you'll get a lot of information on this. Avneesh is still going to take you through the new upgrade process that we have. We tried to incorporate more automation in the upgrade process to make it easier for you to get from where you are today to the latest release, and then just answer any questions that you guys might have at the end of the call here. So as I've traveled around the world meeting with our service management customers, a lot of feedback that I've been given regarding service management. In particular, I always pose the question, why haven't you upgraded? What are some of the challenges that you're confronted with when it comes to trying to stay current and get to the latest release? And feedback almost consistent with everyone that I met with was, hey, our environment is pretty complex. We really don't want to take on an upgrade at this time. If you're working with our services organization or even your own internal resources, the cost of upgrading was pretty significant. So that was also something that contributed to customers staying on older releases. In a lot of cases, Service Desk Manager and the other products were up and running. You're getting good value out of it. It's productive in your environment. So you ask the question, okay, why change if it's already working? And something that we're going to talk a lot about today on the call is one of the things that you guys told us in the past with some of the releases that came out was that there just wasn't enough features in those releases that compelled you to take on an upgrade. And then lastly, we also heard a lot from the install base that the release cadence was too frequent for you to keep up. So we got together and tried to figure out how could we address all of these things to make it easier for you guys to stay current and make sure that you're getting the value out of the most recent releases of our service management products. So in summary, we felt like we were giving you compelling products that would make you want to upgrade, but the path to get there and the perceived risk of getting there through performing those upgrades often outweigh the reward. So what we're going to talk about today is how do we help you overcome those risks and how do we help you mitigate any challenges that you've had in the past for upgrading our service management products. So today, and I am a bit biased because I do work for CA, but I think we have the best service management solution in the market, hands down. And we put a lot into the latest release, 14.1, that I think has a tremendous amount of value that all of our existing customers could benefit from. The challenge remains, how do you get there? So we want to make it easier for you to take advantage of this release. So we put in place some utilities and some resources that I think you'll get great value out of that will potentially reduce the amount of time and the cost for you to upgrade. And then lastly, the planned version release cadence has been extended out to 16 to 20 months. Previously, it was more around every 12 months. We were sending out a major release, and we've extended it out to give you guys more time to consume these releases in a more timely fashion and more affordable, at a more affordable pace. Then there will be value packs that come out on a more frequent basis. You know, these value packs could include service packs that we've identified that are needed, or it could be some incremental capability in the product that has been requested, and we send that out in a value pack. But as far as major releases, you can expect those, on average, to come out every 16 to 20 months. So we're trying to address the cadence. We're trying to address the complexity and the cost of upgrading. And at the end of the day, we want all of you to remain happy CA customers who are using our service management products, and you stay with CA for a very, very long time. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Avneesh to take you through the remainder of the slides. I just wanted to come on and really thank you all for being CA customers. Just convey to you that we've listened to your concerns about upgrading these products and that we've taken some actions to address those. Hopefully you'll find the call very informational and very valuable to you. I have to apologize in advance that I have to run off to another commitment, but Avneesh and the other folks that are on the panelist call here will take good care of you today. So with that, Avneesh, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Titus. So moving further and taking this along with what Titus has been talking about, why should you upgrade to ITSM 14.1 or the CA Service Management 14.1 solution? So what has happened in past, we have added value in the last couple of releases, and this value is what you see on your screen. So there have been certain recent enhancements that we have done in our past couple of releases, and you also see the corresponding business value that is driven from those enhancements that have been made. Starting with unified self-service. So on the overall CA service management solution, the business user-facing interfaces that we used to have, there has been a lot of demand. We've been working with our customers and the community, and we would have reached out to a lot of you guys as well, where we were trying to gather inputs about what the business users want. And the answer was very clear that they need a similar kind of an experience as they get in their social interactions. So what we've done is we've provided with new ways of interacting with the system for the business users who are the consumers of IT services via the unified self-service, via the collaboration and the social user experience of interacting with the system, and accessing the system via the mobile apps for the business users as well as the analysts in terms of mobility. So what it in turn does is it increases the user satisfaction, and it helps you position to your customers, to your users, the solution as being more friendly to their needs. Now, along with that, what has also been coming out is the out-of-the-box service content. What it helps is it helps realize the value very quickly. So these are the services. For example, we've talked to our customers, and what we have heard is that reset password is probably the most frequently used service. And these kind of services, we are providing them as content out of the box in our solution. Then we also have change control and change audit and control. So what that means is that the biggest risk that can happen in an environment is because of the rogue changes. So what we have introduced is the change audit and control, which helps identify the rogue changes based on the policies that you define in the system. It helps maintain the integrity of the data that goes in the CMDB, and it also helps identify and manage the rogue changes. Along with that, apart from reducing the business risk, you also want to reduce the downtime and increase the efficacy of the upgrade of the system. So we have introduced the advanced availability, where you can do the rolling maintenance, and without any downtime, you can cleanly switch over to the backup servers and then back again. And without bringing the system down, you can actually do your maintenance on the system. Then comes the business value reports for the decision makers, where they need to have a a business level view of the system and for things like what is the demand on particular services and how the services are performing, where are the costs going, where are the benefits. So we have added some business value reports which are available out of the system. And then we have also expanded the service design. So all these makes the time to value much shorter when you implement the system. In the end, what happens is that we are investing dollars into this product. And when you upgrade, we want you to realize the value of the investment that we are making in this product. That's the objective, and that's the bottom line, what you would get when you upgrade to the latest release. Now, in terms of upgrade, what has happened is, as Titus was talking about, we have looked at the pain points, and those that came up at the top of the list, we have tried to address them. And we have tried to address them by providing increased upgrade automation. What it does is it provides the utilities which would identify the customizations, and they would merge the customizations as you move from one version to the latest version, whatever is your current version. We will see which versions are supported in the next slides. But what it does is it identifies those customizations and move them over. What it also does is the customizations which cannot be moved over, which cannot be automatically merged, it identifies them and it tells you that these are the areas which cannot be moved over automatically, and you would have to take certain manual steps, and where do you have to take those manual steps. Now, all these tools and utilities as part of this automation, they are executed by the offsite resources that we have, both CA and our partner resources. So ultimately what happens is, as a result of this, the cost and time of upgrade gets reduced. So what can be upgraded? These are the versions which can essentially be upgraded to the latest shipping version, which is 14.1. So for CA Service Test Manager, 11.2 through 12.9, CA Service Catalog from 11.2 through 12.9, CA IT Asset Manager, Asset Portfolio Management specifically, 11.3.4 through 12.9, and CA Process Automation. Now, it's also important to keep in mind what is not in scope of the upgrade automation that we've been talking about. The Software Asset Manager part of the CA IT Asset Management is not included in this scope. Any CA Service Test Manager released prior to 11.2 would not be part of this activity. And any porting of the workflows from the CA Advanced workflow to CA Process Automation migration. Now, though we cover the gamut of the releases from 11.2 through 12.9, the benefits would differ, and the scope and the changes would differ as you go through the releases. The more recent the releases, the more smoother the process. And we'll see how that works. So what we have done in past, we have engaged with a lot of you as part of our validation programs and as part of validation of the utilities that we've been developing all through the beta phase of the program. And these are the results that we have observed as part of the beta program. So we have seen that on an average, 83% of the custom forms are moved over to the new release automatically. And on an average, the time saving is somewhere around 56%. Now, these two numbers are indicative, and there would be a deviation based upon certain factors. Now, these factors, one of the most important factors is your current version number. So if you're, for example, if you're on a CA Service Test Manager version 12.6 or above, we expect a very high number of customizations that would be moved over automatically. However, if you're on a prior version, this number may go down. Similarly, the amount of time which would be saved by auto merging or using the utilities would also depend upon the number of customizations which are present in the system, and how many of those customizations you would want to let go of and then use the features which are now available out of the box in the product. As we have gone through the beta program and as we have worked with some of you during that process, the general feedback that we've got from our customers has been on the positive side. The customers have been very impressed with the savings and the ease of process. We have seen customers saying, what next? And when we go back and tell them that's it, and they were like, okay, that's pretty good. And here's some of the testimonials from a few of our customers who've gone through this process as part of our beta program. So we can clearly see that, you know, the savings which they've made in terms of their time and their effort, and which essentially translates into the cost. Now, coming back to the new upgrade process. The new upgrade process is divided into two phases. The first phase, as we refer to this phase as the CA Service Management Assessment. We call it assessment for the reason that the actual movement of the environment is not happening in this phase. In this phase, though there are activities which are related to the second phase where the actual upgrade would happen, but we're preparing the ground. We're pretty much, it's kind of a pre-digested material which will be presented to you after this phase. So we're expecting the cost for this phase to be somewhere in the range of 40K to 75K, depending upon the environment, depending upon the version numbers, the complexity, the customizations, and so on and so forth. Now, what will happen in this phase? In this phase, first of all, we'll do the environmental discovery. What that means is we would reach out to our customers. We would either get a copy of their environment and set that environment up internally in our labs. Or if the customer so desired and they provide us an environment set up within their setup and they give access to that environment which is set up there, we can work on that setup as well. Once we have the environment ready, we run our auto-merge utility against that environment. Now, what happens is once we run these utilities tell us, give us a state of where this environment stands today and how much of this environment can be moved over automatically and what would be the manual steps involved. And this is 100% close to what you would find in your real-time exercise. So as a result of that, what we deliver is a runbook. A runbook is a very prescriptive step-by-step instruction and very specific to the customer environment. It's not a generic upgrade or install guide. It's very specific, very step-by-step instructions, very much related to the environment in question. It also gives us the merged customizations. These merged customizations, these STMPF files, can be directly taken and put into the production system if required, or the whole process as per the runbook and this auto-merge utility. If this is a test environment, this can again be run on the dev or on the production environment again. There will be details of the environment post, both pre and post upgrade. So the conditions are decided up front, and once where we start from and where we reach after running our upgrade automation services, those details would also be available. And then again, the details on the manual configurations. So if you remember, we talked about some of the customizations which cannot be moved over automatically. So for those customizations, the details will be provided of where the manual configuration or the manual changes in the system are required. If there is a need for any patch which has been identified during this process, those patches, those fixes will be provided along with the runbook. So at the end of this phase, at the end of phase one, You would have the done book, you would have the merge customizations, which would also include the details on the environment as it existed before the upgrade and as it existed post the upgrade, the manual configuration requirements, along with any patches or fixes, if required, which are very specific to your environment. The end of phase 1 would lead us into the phase 2. The phase 2 essentially takes all the input which is generated in the phase 1 and then moves from there. As you get into the phase 2, you have a choice of either going with CA services. In that case, there would be a separate new statement of work which would be created. It would take the output of phase 1 and then would complete the production upgrade. The overall cost, you would realize, can probably be much less than what you're doing without the assessment phase today, because a lot of activity is done upfront in phase 1. So we're trying to minimize any surprises in phase 2. So ideally, there should be no surprise in the phase 2 when you enter phase 2, and it should be all about implementing the output from the phase 1. If you already have a third-party vendor which would assist you in completing the upgrade, you can go ahead with a third-party vendor, and then again leverage the output from the phase 1. Or if you so desire, you can also upgrade yourself following the instructions and the other output which is provided out of the phase 1. Once again, from the CA services perspective, there would be a collaboration with you throughout the process. So we know the products, we have the product expertise in-house, and draw upon the resources which are available in-house. There is a wide range of expertise which is available within CA services to quickly adapt to the situations as needed. There is, as we've been engaged on the beta programs, there has been a learning with the customers as we've gone through those upgrades. There is also knowledge available on what customizations can be moved over to the features which are now available in the product, so that not just for this release, but in future, there would be lesser and lesser customizations which are very specific to you and which would result in the long-term savings for you. So with that, I think it's time for questions. So if you have any questions at this point of time, I think we are ready to take the questions.
Thank you. Once again, for audio questions, please press *1 on your telephone keypad. Again, if you would like to ask a question, press *1 now. Again, for questions, please press *1 on your telephone keypad.
So, operator, this is Adam Furry from CA Services. I just want to confirm that my line is not on mute.
Yes, sir. We can hear you good and clear.
So one question that's come up is regarding the versions that are supported and what is in scope or out of scope. Avneesh, could you go back to that information and just review it one more time for the folks on the call?
Sure. So these are the product versions which can be moved over using this the automated services. For CA Services Manager, it will be 11.2 through 12.9. CA Service Catalog from 11.2 through 12.9. CAIT Asset Manager, the asset portfolio management part of that, from 11.3.4 through 12.9, and CA Process Automation. These can be automated and moved over as part of the automated services. Any versions prior to that would require a separate services engagement to assess the effort required for doing that.
Great. Thank you, Avneesh. Another question that's come up is what's the approximate duration of the assessment? And then a follow-on, if the customer goes through the assessment and does not immediately move to upgrade, do they need to redo the assessment? How does that work?
Okay, that's a good question. So in terms of the time, as we've said, it kind of relates to the cost aspect as well. And as I said, there are a lot of variable factors. So it's very difficult to time box very generically all the customer environments into one. As we have wide spectrum of different installations and deployments at customer sites with varied level of customizations, what will happen is once we get an access to the customer environment, at that point of time, we do this a pre-assessment, you would say, and come up with a time frame, a rough estimate of how much time would that take for the assessment phase to be complete. So it again varies upon the environment and what level of customizations are there, what are the version numbers of the different products in question. So there are a lot of variables. So we would not want to time box that generically for everybody, because one size would not suit everyone. What was the follow-up question, Adam?
If a client goes through the assessment and they choose not to upgrade immediately, what's the logical process after that? Do they need to go through the assessment once again?
Okay, so I'll answer that in two parts. The first part is, as long as nothing changes in the environment, so you have not brought any new component of the CA service management into the mix. For example, in your environment, when you did the assessment, you did the assessment with an environment which had CA Services Manager and CA Service Catalog. And then at a later point of time, when you're going to upgrade, in that environment, you have CA ITSM Manager as well. So there would be a change, and it would be advisable that you run the assessment all over again. But if the environment hasn't changed much, your steps, the run book, would be the same, which can be used again. If there had been no new customizations during this period, that would also be usable again. So essentially, the assessment of phase one is not time bound, it would not expire, but we would recommend to avoid any uncertainties at a later point in time while it's fresh in the memory. You do that as soon as possible after the phase one completion. But for any business reasons, you want to take some more time and you want to have a time lag between the two, that's possible, unless the environment has not changed and you haven't created any new customizations. However, if you've created new customizations but you have not changed the old customizations, the merged files would still be valid. However, the new customizations would have to be moved manually.
Okay, that detail helps a lot, Avneesh. Thank you for that. Operator, do you see any other questions in the queue at this point?
There are no audio questions at this time.
Could you remind attendees?
I see a question.
What a question?
Sorry, Adam. I see a question here in chat, and the question is there the merge tooling going to be available to customers who still wants to manage own upgrades? So right now, these tools are for use of CA services, and as part of this automated process, and the output of these tools available for the customers to use in the phase two. So in the phase two, if they want to go ahead and use it by themselves, they're more than happy to do that. Just because the expertise in using the tools and the nuances and the training involved in using the tools. So these are right now the folks in the CA services are trained to use these tools for the phase one assessment.
And once again, for audio questions, please press *1 on your telephone keypad.
Avneesh, this is Alan Haupt. A question, are there any differences in the benefits or the value that a customer might receive based on, Service Desk Manager versus, upgrading ITAM versus upgrading catalog? Are there differences, or is it really tied to the level of customization that's been done with each product?
Right, Alan. So yes, there are differences. The maximum value would be available for the customers who are CA Service Desk Manager customers with customizations. Some of the value itself is variable because the level of customizations are variable. The way the customizations are performed is variable across the 3 products. So there would be a difference in the value derived by customers who have different levels of customizations across different products. So going by that order, it would be CA Service Desk Manager with higher number of customizations, CA Service Catalog customers with customizations, and then comes the Asset Manager customers. So the Asset Manager customers, a lot of customizations are database driven. So the movement of that, there would be benefits which would be accrued using the automated utilities. But if you want to compare between them, the SDM ones would be higher.
Great, thank you. I'll follow that up with one additional question. That is, in the unlikely situation where there's no customizations, there's still value in terms of the process and the run book that gets handed down and, the expertise, correct? I mean, there are other benefits.
Can you repeat the question, please, Alan?
Yes, in a hypothetical situation where a customer would have no customizations whatsoever, there are still benefits to the service in terms of, the process, the expertise that CA has in this area, the run books that get supplied, and so forth. There's still other benefits besides the, handling the customizations.
Absolutely, absolutely. There are benefits, and as I mentioned, the run book is a step-by-step instruction of moving from the current environment to the new environment. So even if there are minimal customizations, so there are 2 aspects of what you get out of the phase 1. One is run book, the other is the merge customizations. So if you do not have a lot of customizations, you would have very little of merge customizations. But you still have the first benefit, which is a huge benefit of a run book, which would provide very specific step-by-step instructions specific to your environment. Along with that, you will also have, if your environment has a very specific, unique need of any patches, they will be provided along with that. So yes, there are definite benefits even if you have very minimal customizations.
Great, thank you. So, operator, do you see any additional questions in the queue? And also, for those online, if you don't want to submit a question over the telephone, you can submit through the chat window, which is on the right side of your screen.
So I have another question in the chat window here, and the question goes like, if, for example, 85% of customizations remain intact, the broken 15% is responsibility of customer in phase 2. Again, the phase 1 would, what phase 1 would provide you, what are these 15%? What files and where in those files? So essentially, at the end of phase 1, you know where, in what files and where you have to make the changes. So what you have to do in phase 2, if you're going ahead and doing it yourself or through services or a third-party vendor, is just to implement or execute those instructions which are provided to you, go to those files and make those changes right then and there. You don't have to compare the files. You don't have to figure out where to make the changes. That part is done in phase 1 itself. All you need to do is go there and execute those changes.
There are no audio questions at this time.
Hey, Avneesh, there is a question that came in on a private chat to me, but I think it's meant for you. This is from Debbie, and Debbie asks, how does the cost get narrowed down? 40K to 75K is a wide range.
Right. Again, this is, as I said, the answer is similar to when we were talking about the time it would require to do for the completion of phase 1. It would depend, once you share your environment details with us, then based upon our assessment of the environment, we would be able to provide the specific cost. The range is wide because there are a lot of variables, starting from the version numbers of the current product, number of customization, number of components, number of products involved. So once we have all of them together, do you want to move on to an advanced available environment setup, or you already have an advanced available setup? Do you have CA Services Manager 11.2, or you have 12.7 or 12.9? Somebody moving from 12.9 to 14.1 would be very smooth, while somebody moving from 11.2, there would be some work involved as compared to those who are in closer releases. So it always helps if you're on a nearer releases to the latest shipping release. So those are the elements that will help. So once we take this first step of environmental discovery, after that we'll be able to narrow down on the cost.
Great, thank you. Any other questions out there?
There are no audio questions.
So with that,
okay,
let's wrap up the call. On the participant list, this is Adam Ferrari. If you have any further questions or would like to get in touch with any of us, I don't think we put this on the slide, but you could email Adam Ferrari. It's adam.frary@ca.com. You also see Avneesh's name, Avneesh Bhatnagar, and his email format follows mine with the period between first and last name at ca.com. And Alan Haupt, who works in the BU, and we appreciate everybody dialing in today and time. We know how everyone is busy, but we're really excited about this offering. We think it's a great cost-effective way to help you get on the most current releases and manage risks and any interruption on the operational side. So hopefully you found this information helpful, and thank you again for joining today.
Thank you for your participation in today's presentation. You may now disconnect.